Good morning, everybody, and happy Tuesday. We're going to get started here momentarily. Perfect. All right, let's get started. Again, good morning, everyone, and happy Tuesday. Um, Serge Berger here from thestudytrader.com. Camera's here. Um, Also want to quickly let you guys know that my colleague Joel is with us here as usual in the morning. So if you guys have questions, you can reach out to him. I also think that my colleague Christian will be here as well. So you're in good company here with our team. If you're here for the first time, in case you've never been here before, welcome. This is our morning call, and what we're going to spend time on here today is about 10 to 15 minutes going through some of the top things on my notepad here this morning. I switched to a yellow one here as we're entering into the second half of September. And so what I'd like to focus on this morning, I just did one trade this morning, and I want to quickly update you guys on what that is. So I'll give you that in a few minutes. And then we are going to look a bit more at sort of the tailwinds and the headwinds and things like that that are taking place in the market. So let's get started. Again, if you're here for the first time, please make sure you subscribe to our channel. That's very helpful for you, so that you get updated in real time when we go live with things. Also, if you watch videos of ours like this one here right now, if you can give us a thumbs up, that's also very helpful for the algorithms to be able to pick up our morning call. So here we are. Okay, I did one trade this morning, and I'll tell you that trade in just a second. It was in the futures market, obviously, because equities are not open. But let me just quickly show you what's going on. Again, as a reminder, that we continue to see sort of hard assets and things that do well when you're in more of a stagflation environment tend to do very well. Gold mining stocks are up 107%. Uranium, which I want to talk a little bit about as well here in a minute. I had another momentum move yesterday. Our TSD trender momentum indicator gave us a buy signal a couple of weeks ago, and that continues now. Copper mining stocks, of course, the NASDAQ 100 picking up speed as well, although it's getting quite steep. So again, the point is that things that do well when the dollar goes down and we have some sort of stagflation environment are doing well. And of course, tomorrow we have the Fed. It's kind of baked in, what the outcome will be. What we don't know is how the market reacts, and I don't know. Listen, it's such a crapshoot to make a call on what's going to happen tomorrow. But it is a risk event that we have to get past in order to kind of see how markets react, right? Even if there's nothing, we just don't know. I'm not expecting dramatic anything. I just don't know. But it's a risk event that, from a risk management perspective, we as market participants really can't ignore, right? So I think that's more sort of the approach that we take on that. So what's the trade I did this morning? Well, we've been talking a lot about silver and silver mining stocks, and even silver junior mining stocks. And so what I did this morning, I took full profits in my silver position. And I had a futures position on. I'm going to quickly show you this. But it doesn't really matter whether it's futures or not. The point is the silver itself, whether it's SLV that one might be tracking or something else. And I just think that silver had a big run. I think it can go much higher. But again, through the lens of risk management, I'm just taking some profits here along the way. And the reason I am doing that is because, again, it's had a very steep run. Doesn't mean it can't go higher, but also we're at a point here where, again, with tomorrow's meeting, listen, if if for some reason the dollar starts to rally tomorrow, then all these things, gold mining stocks, silver miners, and probably the Nasdaq bubble are going to probably have some sort of a setback, right? Again, I don't know, but I wanted to lock in some profits. For those of you that have been following us along on silver, just to kind of remind you, the latest buy signal we had on SLV came from a momentum trade on the 4th of August. We had a sell signal the day before. That one got stopped out immediately the next day for probably a loss of 1%. And then we had a buy signal, and that buy signal made now about, let's call it 13%. So all net, that's 12%. These are big moves, and I did this with futures, so that was a sizable gain in the portfolio. I think in that account it added like 5% of returns. So you can kind of leverage those to the portfolio. So you can kind of leverage those bets. You know, if one were to use futures, it's not a recommendation, obviously, but just kind of telling you, how that sort of works. So another thing that's doing very well, and we've been showing it to you here every day for months and months now, is uranium. There's a lot of tailwinds in the uranium trade. You can see uranium is now up 72% on the year. That's using the URA ETF that tracks uranium. It's only second to gold miners, which are up about 107, 108%, as you can see here in the chart. And again, it's leaving all the sort of the other stuff behind. With uranium too, I mean, these are momentum trades. So if you look at uranium, for those of you guys that are using our trender indicator, again, the momentum indicator, you will notice that, or if you're part of ETF Silo Pro or Heat Seeker, you know that we've been all over this uranium thing all year. And so what we saw most recently was a momentum buy signal that became valid on the morning of the 28th of August. And so far, the URA ETF is up another almost 15%. And that's because we had a new momentum burst. Now, I wanted to quickly point something out. A lot of people talk about, breakouts. Momentum is not a breakout strategy the way we use it, because the breakout didn't occur until basically yesterday morning and wasn't really solidified until yesterday after the close. But yesterday uranium was up on the day, it's called 9+%. But we received that momentum buy signal on the 27th, became valid the morning of the 28th. Chasing breakouts certainly is a strategy that can work, but I find it much more difficult to work than people believe it is. So when you trade momentum, what you want to get is signals before sort of breakouts happen. Now, we have a little rule that's called don't trade the chop zone, but a chop zone is usually much smaller than a major breakout zone. And so for those people that use the trender, like for example here, we had a momentum buy signal on the 24th of April, and then URA went on a 67% rally, or 70% rally even actually. And then we had a little sell signal that reached a free profit target, and then we had a buy signal. Free profit target was reached last week, and now we have the big breakout move. So we think this continues. From a trend following perspective, just so you guys know, uranium is actually just now turning into a bullish trend. We're going to switch on over to our Market Rover weekly member session in just a few minutes. But just so you know, if you look at uranium from a trend following perspective, which I'll just want to quickly highlight it here, and then we'll talk about it more in our Market Rover member session for members there. But if you look at uranium from a trend following perspective, and this is critically important, right? Uranium has only been in a bullish trend, not trade, trend, since basically the 24th of July, right? Before then, all it was doing was coming out of a bearish trend, morphed through a neutral trend, and then into a bullish trend. However, there were trades to be had along the way, right? Which we just talked about from a momentum perspective, like this, right? So we nailed all these trades. So we, not only did we nail the initial, sort of sell-off in February, but then momentum came in and we had a buy signal and a short signal for a few days and then a new buy signal. So again, trend and momentum are often confused. I would say most people confuse them. It's also why most people will blow up ultimately. But I'm trying to do my very best to make sure that people understand the difference between those two things. So that's what I did this morning. I took off my silver position for the aforementioned reasons. I want to quickly talk about the dollar. This is a chart that I think has resonated with a lot of people when we made this chart a few days ago. About 2 weeks ago, I showed this chart for the first time. I think people had a bit of a wake-up call. So if you look at the US dollar and you look at it through the lens of what is the inverse relationship to, you can see that it's basically an inverse relationship to the NASDAQ bubble and to things like gold and silver and stuff like that. I'm just going to add a couple of these, right? So as the dollar has gone down, some of the assets that benefit from a weaker dollar in a stagflation environment have gone up, like gold and silver, and of course the NASDAQ 100. Now, the problem with the NASDAQ 100 is that there are stocks, right? So stocks are going to be susceptible to margin squeezes at some point as the top line starts to slow down. Gold doesn't have that problem. Silver doesn't have that problem. Uranium doesn't have that problem, right? So those longer term assets, as we call, are really just entering what we believe to be a much more long sustainable bull market. There's a lot of risk in the NASDAQ bubble, not because they're bad companies, but because at some point there will be less CapEx, and that's going to be a problem all at once, by the way. But you look at the year-to-date performance and you can see, again, where things are already going. And this is, we think, just the beginning of that. I should also mention here quickly, before I forget, there is a way, and I actually just yesterday met with a company that deals with essentially ways to stay long the bubble but be protected. A lot of people try to do it themselves by buying puts and driving themselves nuts. There's actually ways of doing that. And if you guys want to, be happy to do like a special session on that at some point. If you guys want to, maybe just email us at support@thesteadytrader.com, reach out to Joel, and we'd be happy to do a session like that. It just was a really insightful meeting I had yesterday, and I think it's worth everyone kind of being aware of some of that. But anyway, let's see here. What else do we have? I wanted to talk about silver. Oh, also, I want to quickly point out gold mining stocks as well. So again, gold mining stocks, we just showed you some of the bigger ones are the biggest performance have also been gold mining, junior gold miners. Let me quickly show you this on a new chart. So if you look at something like GDXJ, which we actually removed, i.e. took profits on the other week in some of our other mock portfolios. But you can see the junior gold miners and the silver gold miners are having vertical moves at this point. And, I typically try to fade vertical moves as opposed to chase them. And so that's just so you know the correlation of all these things. So the correlation between gold and gold miners and the juniors and all that stuff, it's very, very high. And it's also basically 1 to the NASDAQ 100. So just thought I'd point that out. So that's it. Uranium, silver update, gold miners, dollar update. Again, I'll leave you guys with this chart here. So next time you look at your portfolio and you're high-fiving yourself and your dog that you're making all sorts of money, realize that your purchasing power at the same time is getting pounded because the dollar's gone down, so your purchasing power has basically gone down to the extent that the NASDAQ bubble has continued to go higher, right? So just kind of keep that in mind. Maybe things aren't as good if you're, for example, an investor a foreign investor and you've bought NVIDIA, you're probably down on the year because of the dollar, right? American investors don't think about that because dollar is their currency, but still you're paying through it by higher inflation, by the way, right? So anyway, hope it helps. See you guys over in the Market Rover member session here in about 4 minutes. And if you're a Trade-a-thon member, we'll see you in about a half an hour. Looking forward to that morning session. So see you guys soon, and thanks for being here. Have a great day. And again, as always, please smash that thumbs up like button and subscribe to the channel. That really helps us out being able to grow the channel and be able to continue to do this morning call. So thanks for that. I'll see you soon.